Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sleep Atomic, where I review everyone's favorite shows of the time. Could be this time, that time, who knows? Formerly known as Headspace, we had to change the title, but with the same host, Alistair. You could call me Al if you want, Ali, Ali, even. But whatever you do, I hope you take some time and hit that like and subscribe. Your subs will mean all the difference. The difference between life and death, and food and maybe a better program. But what brings us here today is The Last of Us, Episode 6, titled Kin. But before we start, I wanted to just say I'm pretty jazzed with the name change and the voice. And also, I got the biggest knot out of my hamstring today. To save you from the details, Jolt of Lightning came out and combed through that, and now it feels great. And for anyone who needs it, we all see what's happening in the world, and we all know that you're doing your best. You may feel isolated, or whichever feeling you're trying to learn to transfer out of, lean away from, give the psychological boot to. Just know you're halfway there. And that message was brought to you by younger or older you. You may not have been aware, but there's some messages coming from you to you. And we all hope that you get them, and that you soon will have your own good news. Now, on to the show. Just as a prelim of what's happening, I would like to say all of the actors' voices are super unique. You got Joel, Ellie, Maria, Tommy, even the couple from the beginning. All of their voices seem to stand out way more than anyone else's you can imagine. They almost have a certain quality to them, and they play to that quality. Now, I won't point them out, these certain traits or qualities. You know it when you hear it, though. And it feels as though some point in the past has come to us now, in the present, having revived itself in another person, an echo reborn, letting us experience it once again. It would have been maybe a important person, maybe it was a private voice that seemed to have gone unnoticed at the time, but was a invisible force that guided many people. I know nowadays speeches aren't as what they were because some things were up for interpretation, and those interpretations seem to have collected and guided certain people of the generation that they were in and excelled certain qualities. And even if you only listen to the tone of the voice, it was all there encoded or haunting sentiments of regal or belief or calling. And even if these people with these voices aren't aware, the voices culminate and echo it from wherever it is that they are speaking from. And obviously, it's not the first time anyone could sound the way these actors sound. But as generations came and went, and they may have been accompanied by important or influential people, there are some curators at museums that say some of the busts of these certain faces just a little off topic, were to be paired and idealized the face that it was or a voice. But unfortunately, it was only the documents of speeches or sonnets. Although at the time there was people reading these works of theirs near the bust of one person that has yet to come to exist and have those elements gathered so they could come into the world. The physical elements all there now in these people I've seemed to idealize with their voices and physical being now relate themselves in the world with this show. But that was just my way of saying I appreciate and enjoy these actors. And maybe in a few generations, these faces and voices will have a role and action that will go with what they're trying to show and convey. But the way things are, I just hope certain messages are heard. And this one as well, maybe echoing out into the world as unflappable, established, or traveled. Or most likely, I've already missed it and I need to go study up. But hey, you never know. My collection of words that I'm trying to record and give to the world may be added to some sentiment sooner than I think. And I know it's a little out there from action or horror, but I just wanted that to be heard. But closing up on that train of thought, Joel and Ellie have been out for 3 months since we've seen them in Kansas City. I'm sure it was very uneventful and rather quiet, especially with the recap having us relive what Ellie was trying to process and live with. But by this time, she's about where she was without any questioning about her well being. And they're in Wyoming. Maybe Laramie, Cody was mentioned. Undeniably being the least tried place that they've had presented to us. With being, instead of a person or some event happening, the entirety of the outside can kill you. It's a pick your poison situation, but c'est la vie, indeed. After leaving this log cabin, which I believed was the first wave of protection of this town Tommy is in Wyoming, some people of the frontier have rounded up Joel and Ellie to their place of safety, with the front gate almost reminding you of a very woodsy fort. They have electricity, warmth from the cold, and a whole calm, functioning community. And not to mention the food is great. It basically has the suburban feel or a small town thing going on, with the presence of community only lasting within themselves, not wanting to reach out further than what they can touch or reach, with hints of a western town, but keep in mind there are children there. And this basically extends to the end of the episode, where after all this time with Joel and Ellie, you don't want to break the spell of feeling at home, even though they're quite on their toes and minorly suspicious, with Joel immediately finding a flaw within the agreement with Tommy, and Ellie just testing everyone around her, while trying to not look like she's completely enjoying herself. But as it goes along, the characters themselves bring their somber, sober worries to this little town of Jackson. Joel bears his worries to Tommy himself after a relieving reunion, and we see Ellie's worries projected onto the environment that she's in, influencing her very opinions about many things. On top of anything the viewer is remembering or re experiencing through the characters, there's a seamless quality that all the transitions of each scene brings that makes you wonder about a all-seeing narrator viewing your life as it goes on and seeing all the choices and decisions you need to make, seemingly while everyone else is going about their lives, toiling on simpler things, and maybe life itself watches as you try to unburden yourself or relieve yourself of what sets you apart from all those things you're trying to get away from and become a part of it in a seamless way that you've never experienced before, but only managing to find yourself falling apart and never really getting what you want, and somehow make the best of what you do have. Although, yes, this seemed to have covered everything arching over to maybe 45 minutes of the movie, and before Joel and Ellie's departure, I seem to have mistakenly just kept trying to convey the messaging of the show. And seeing how I couldn't break the trend, I'll just keep this brief and fairly short this episode. And even so far as the relation of the title goes heavy this time. And usually kin isn't just family, it's those of your likeness. Those of you have carried and people whom have carried you. Nearing a tribe, but it's more like a circulation of one prime feeling, whereas the tribes would have elders excelling in certain paths that each of the younger tribes people could follow. And also very close to a community where different people bring certain things to the table and where people wouldn't have a trait provided for other people or there's an overlap. But the kinship is a certain circulation, in my belief, with the general acceptance and then forward circulation of you well past your prime or even your life. It excels like a family, but there could be no blood relation and there'd still be a kinship, and seems to provide a local environmental aspect to one those of what you feel is proper. Although, unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, most of the time the goal is more important than any other that they set their minds to within the kinship. Meaning, if you were not fully in with what's happening, you will be omitted. But hopefully, all these things within the show and maybe just the concepts in general have at least flashed to you during your watch, and hopefully and hopefully they've circulated enough to where I need not explain what happened in the episode, really, as by the time the episode ends it already feels like whatever has been happening is happening to you. So I'd rather not beat that horse heavily and let there be a real chance of just it sinking in or floating away. And yes, I know, very poor choices, but at least I didn't mention a bat. but hopefully they can carry on despite what or who will be there. But we will see who is still there next week. And this has been Alistair on Sleep Atomic now. No longer Headspace. But either way, we brought some finer messaging this time. And I hope you enjoyed The Last of Us Episode 6, titled Kin. It's very short this time, but I feel like I got that home. But hey,